The woman in the white t-shirt. They saw a simple woman in jeans and a t-shirt. They mocked her on a busy street. They bullied her without hesitation, but they had no idea they just picked the wrong person to humiliate. Rachel Wilson sipped coffee by her kitchen window, the morning sun illuminating her minimalist apartment. At 42, she'd built her fortune from nothing yet never abandoned her values. Her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, she preferred her white t-shirt and worn jeans to designer clothes. "Are you sure about this approach, Rachel?" her assistant's voice came through the speaker. "Wakefield Dynamics is notoriously image-conscious." "That's exactly why I need to see it for myself, Marcus," Rachel replied. "The acquisition paperwork is signed, but I need to understand their culture before I officially step in. The board expects the announcement tomorrow morning. No one except top executives knows who the new owner is." Marcus paused. "Still, I think you should reconsider this stealth approach. How can I transform a company if I don't know what needs changing?" Rachel countered, gazing at the skyline. "I built Horizon Innovations on authenticity and respect. If Wakefield is joining our family, I need to see how they truly operate when no one's watching." She remembered starting 15 years ago from a tiny apartment. Now she owned one of the fastest-growing tech companies on the East Coast, known for its inclusive workplace culture. "Your car is ready whenever you are," Marcus said. "I'll take the subway," Rachel replied, slipping on simple white sneakers. Part of being invisible is not arriving in a chauffeur-driven Bentley. "Of course you will," Marcus sighed. "Just be careful, Rachel. Not everyone appreciates authenticity the way you do." Rachel ended the call and grabbed her worn leather messenger bag containing the Wakefield dossier, financials, staff profiles, corporate structure. What the papers couldn't tell her was whether their polished exterior matched what happened inside. She checked her reflection one last time: simple white t-shirt, jeans, minimal jewelry. Nothing suggested she was worth millions or about to become the new owner of Manhattan's oldest marketing firm. "Time to see what Wakefield Dynamics is really made of," she murmured, closing her door. What Rachel couldn't predict was how this reconnaissance mission would expose far more than corporate culture. It would reveal the true character of those she was about to lead. The Wakefield Dynamics building rose like a monument in downtown Manhattan. Rachel paused on the busy sidewalk, observing professionals rushing in and out of the revolving doors. The midday sun reflected off glass and steel while taxi horns punctuated the urban symphony around her. As she approached, a group emerged from the main entrance, their laughter carrying across the plaza. At the center stood a blonde woman in her 40s wearing an expensive beige pantsuit, gold buttons catching the sunlight. Flanking her were four others, two women in cream and white blazers and two men in tailored suits, all sharing some private joke. Rachel recognized the blonde woman from her research, Christine Hartwell, Wakefield's Director of Client Relations. The company profile described her as driven and results-oriented, but missed the predatory gleam in her eyes. "Jeffrey, you can't be serious," Christine's voice carried over the street noise. "That account is practically guaranteed." "Nothing's guaranteed until the contract's signed," the man replied, adjusting his tie. "But I'd say we're 99% there." Rachel watched their dynamics, the way they clustered like an exclusive club, pedestrians instinctively moving aside for them. Her pen rolled off her lap, stopping near Christine's designer heel. "Excuse me," Rachel said, approaching. "My pen." Christine looked down, her gaze traveling from Rachel's dark ponytail to her simple white t-shirt and jeans. Her mouth twitched downward. "Here's your pen," she said, nudging it with her toe as if touching it might contaminate her. "Thank you," Rachel said, bending to retrieve it. One of the men chuckled. "Did you get lost on your way to the coffee shop? Staff entrance is around the back." Rachel kept her expression neutral. "I'm not staff. Just had some business nearby." "Business at Wakefield?" Christine's arched eyebrow conveyed volumes of disbelief. "In the area," Rachel clarified. The woman in the cream blazer leaned toward Christine. Maybe she's one of those startup people from the incubator. You know, the ones who think hoodies and jeans are appropriate business attire. They all laughed, not genuine laughter, but the sharp sound of exclusion. Well, whatever business brings you here, Christine said, making air quotes, you might want to consider an upgrade. She gestured at Rachel's outfit. This is a professional district, sweetie. First impressions matter. They certainly do, Rachel agreed quietly. Something in her tone made Christine pause, but she recovered with a practiced smile. We have a lunch reservation at a Lion. Some important clients to entertain. The emphasis on important was unmistakable. Best of luck with your business. As they turned to leave, one man deliberately bumped Rachel's shoulder. Sorry, he said, not sounding sorry. Didn't see you there. No problem. God, can you believe what they're letting into the financial district these days, he said loudly. Next thing you know we'll have food trucks and street performers. Christine laughed. Well, that's what security is for, isn't it? To keep out the undesirables. As they walked away, Rachel remained composed. She discreetly photographed the group, then texted Marcus, conducted first cultural assessment. Very illuminating. We have work to do. Looking up at Wakefield headquarters, Rachel thought about tomorrow, when those gleaming windows would belong to her, and the responsibility for changing what thrived behind them. First impressions do matter, Christine, she murmured. And you've certainly made yours. Evening light bathed Rachel's apartment as she stood on her balcony, the city lights beginning to twinkle below. Her mind kept returning to the confrontation outside Wakefield Dynamics. The doorbell rang. Marcus entered, tablet in hand and concern etched on his face. You know, when most CEOs acquire a company for $300 million, they celebrate, he said, following her inside. They don't get bullied on the sidewalk as part of their due diligence. Rachel smiled faintly. How long have you worked with me, Marcus? 7 years, 3 months, and I believe 12 days. And in that time, have I ever done things the expected way? Marcus sighed, placing his tablet on the counter. No, but getting verbally assaulted wasn't on today's agenda either. He pulled up the photos Rachel had sent. I ran background checks on all of them. Christine Hartwell has been with Wakefield for 11 years. 3 discrimination complaints filed against her, all quietly settled and swept under the rug. I imagine the previous management was selective about what problems they acknowledged. Marcus confirmed. The others in your photos are Jeffrey Kleen, VP of Client Acquisition, Danielle Moore and Sophia Winters from the executive team, and Andrew Phillips, Senior Account Manager. All long-term employees, all part of the inner circle. Rachel examined papers spread across her dining table, organizational charts, performance reports, company policies. She picked up a file labeled, Corporate Culture. The irony, she said, is that their HR materials talk about inclusivity and respect for all. Their website showcases diversity, yet the reality is Christine Hartwell and her entourage mocking someone they deemed beneath them. Marcus finished, it's not just about me, Marcus. If they treat a stranger that way, how do they treat employees who don't fit their mold? Clients who aren't polished enough? The cleaning staff? Marcus nodded. So what's the plan for tomorrow? Rachel pulled out her phone and showed Marcus a video, security footage from the plaza where the encounter had taken place. How did you get that? He asked, eyebrows raised. I called in a favor from the building security chief. We worked on a charity project together last year. She paused the video on Christine's group, clearly mocking her. I want this ready to display during tomorrow's meeting. She walked to her closet and pulled out a garment bag. This company has potential, Marcus. Their creative work is excellent, their client list is impressive, but their culture is rotten at the core. And that starts with leadership. And tomorrow, you're going to address that? Tomorrow, Rachel replied, laying out a perfectly tailored white suit, I'm going to give Christine Hartwell and her friends a lesson in first impressions. She picked up Christine's personnel file, studying the woman's perfectly composed corporate headshot. I want to see their faces when they realize who they were mocking on the street. And after the reveal? What then? Marcus asked. Rachel set the file down, her decision already made. Then we start rebuilding. A company is only as good as its culture, and culture starts at the top. After he left, Rachel returned to her balcony, watching the Manhattan skyline. Tomorrow would change everything for Wakefield Dynamics, not just because of new ownership, but because of a chance encounter that had revealed the truth behind the polished corporate facade. Morning light filled Wakefield Dynamics' main conference room, casting golden rectangles across the polished mahogany table. Outside, Manhattan bustled with its daily rhythm. Inside, anticipation hung in the air as employees gathered for the ownership announcement. At the front table sat the executive team. Christine Hartwell smoothed her beige suit jacket, the same one she'd worn yesterday, and leaned toward Jeffrey Clean. Harold says it's some tech company, she whispered. Probably one of those Silicon Valley types who will want to disrupt everything we've built. Jeffrey straightened his tie. Whoever it is, they'll need us. Our client relationships are what make this company valuable. Christine nodded, confidence radiating from her perfectly coiffed exterior. In her world, connections were currency, appearances were everything. At precisely 9 a.m., Harold Wakefield, the company's aging founder, stepped to the podium. At 72, he had finally decided to retire, selling the company his father had started 60 years ago. Change is inevitable, Harold began, but change is also opportunity. Today marks a new chapter for Wakefield Dynamics. The double doors at the back of the conference room opened. All heads turned. Rachel Wilson walked in. Gone was the simple white t-shirt and jeans. Today she wore an impeccably tailored white suit that spoke of quiet power. Her dark hair was styled elegantly, framing a face that now wore subtle, professional makeup. Yet she was unmistakably the same woman Christine and her colleagues had mocked on the street. A ripple of confusion moved through the room. Christine's smile froze, her eyes widening in slow, dawning horror. It is my great pleasure, Harold continued, to introduce Rachel Wilson, founder and CEO of Horizon Innovations and the new owner of Wakefield Dynamics. Rachel ascended the stage with measured confidence, shaking Harold's hand before turning to face her new employees. Thank you, Harold, she said, her voice clear, and thank you all for being here. In the front row, Christine had gone pale. She exchanged panicked glances with Jeffrey, whose face had hardened into disbelief. I believe in transparency, Rachel continued, so I want to be clear about why I acquired Wakefield Dynamics. This company has incredible potential, talented people, impressive creative work, a strong client base. She paused, her gaze sweeping across the room. But potential isn't enough. What matters most in business, what has always mattered most to me, is how we treat people. All people. The room had gone completely silent. Marcus, standing at the back, queued up the presentation. Yesterday, Rachel said, I visited Wakefield Dynamics not as a CEO or a potential owner, but as an observer. I wanted to see the company culture in action, unfiltered and honest. The large screen behind her illuminated. On it appeared the security footage from the plaza, Christine and her group emerging from the building, the encounter with Rachel, the mockery, the laughter. A collective gasp rippled through the audience. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." In the front row, Christine's face drained of what little color remained. Rachel didn't raise her voice, she didn't need to. This is what I saw, she said simply, letting the footage play. Not in a private office or a closed meeting, but on a public street in full view of anyone passing by. This is how some members of Wakefield's leadership team choose to represent your company. Christine began to rise, stammering, I can explain. Please do, Rachel said, her tone composed but unyielding. The room held its breath. Christine's mouth opened and closed, no coherent explanation forthcoming. "Perhaps you didn't recognize me without my white t-shirt and jeans," Rachel suggested, not unkindly but with unmistakable firmness. Christine sank back into her chair, wilting under the collective stare of her colleagues. "Starting today," Rachel announced, "we'll be making immediate changes to leadership. Those changes will reflect our commitment to respect, innovation, and true inclusivity." In the front row, Christine's group exchanged alarmed glances. The reckoning they never saw coming had arrived, delivered by the very person they had dismissed as irrelevant just 24 hours earlier. The glass-walled office that now belonged to Rachel Wilson offered a panoramic view of Manhattan's skyline. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the white marble conference table where Christine Hartwell sat, hands clasped tightly, knuckles white. She'd spent the hours since the morning meeting in a state of suspended animation, watching colleagues whisper as they passed her office. When the summons finally came, Christine had applied fresh lipstick with trembling hands, armor for a battle she already knew she'd lost. Rachel entered, her white suit almost luminous in the late afternoon light. Gone was any trace of the woman who had retrieved her pen from the sidewalk. In her place stood someone whose quiet confidence filled the room completely. "Thank you for waiting," Rachel said, taking a seat across from Christine. She placed a slim folder on the table but didn't open it. Christine shifted. "Rachel, Ms. Wilson, I want to apologize for yesterday. If I'd known who you were." "That's exactly the problem," Rachel interrupted, her voice soft but unyielding. "The fact that you would treat anyone differently based on who you think they are or what you think they can do for you. It was unprofessional. I admit that. We were having a bad day, and let's not pretend yesterday was an aberration," Rachel said. "Your personnel file contains 3 settled discrimination complaints. Your performance reviews consistently note your demanding standards while glossing over reports of favoritism and exclusionary behavior." All color drained from Christine's face. "You've been here less than a day. You can't possibly understand." "I understand that you've confused exclusivity with excellence. That you've built a circle of influence based on who looks the part rather than who delivers results." She opened the folder, revealing staff surveys and exit interviews. "Did you know that Wakefield has lost 16 promising employees in the past year? 12 cited toxic work environment as their reason for leaving. Every competitive industry has turnover. 8 specifically mentioned you by name." The silence that followed seemed to bend the light in the room. Beyond the glass walls, the office continued its busy rhythm. Inside this room, Christine's carefully constructed world was collapsing. "What do you want from me?" she finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Rachel closed the folder. "I want you to understand why today is your last day at Wakefield Dynamics." The words hit Christine like physical blows. "You're firing me over one sidewalk interaction?" "No. I'm letting you go because of a pattern of behavior that has cost this company talent, damaged its reputation, and undermined its potential. Yesterday wasn't an isolated incident. It was a symptom of a much deeper problem." Christine's shock gave way to anger. "You can't just walk in here and—" "I can," Rachel said quietly. "I own this company now. But that's not why I'm making this decision. I'm making it because leaders set the tone for organizational culture, and the tone you've set is one of exclusion, elitism, and casual cruelty." She slid a document across the table, a severance agreement. "You'll receive 6 months' salary and benefits. In return, you'll agree to a non-disparagement clause and completion of an executive coaching program if you wish to receive a reference." "This is ridiculous. The clients trust me." "The Alliant Group called this morning," Rachel interrupted. "After seeing footage of your behavior on social media. It seems someone in the plaza recorded your interaction with me. The Alliant Group, along with 2 other clients, have expressed concerns about whether their brands should be associated with that kind of corporate culture." The fight drained from Christine. She slumped slightly, reality finally landing with full force. "You planned this," she whispered. "You set me up." Rachel shook her head. "I didn't plan to be mocked on a public street. I didn't plan to witness Wakefield's leadership treating someone they deemed unimportant with contempt. You did that all on your own." She leaned forward, her voice softening for the first time. "Here's what I did plan, Christine. I plan to transform this company into a place where talent is recognized regardless of packaging, where people are valued for their contributions, not their connections." The intercom buzzed. Marcus' voice came through. "The Pearson team is assembled in conference room B. Security will accompany you to collect your personal items," Rachel said, standing. "The severance agreement needs to be signed by Friday if you choose to accept it." As Christine reached the door, she paused. "Why are you really doing this? Is it revenge?" "Neither. It's about accountability, Christine. But it's also about legacy. Years from now, when someone asks what changed at Wakefield Dynamics, I want them to hear about the day we decided that how we treat people matters more than what they can do for us." Security arrived, a respectful but firm presence at Christine's elbow. As they led her away, Rachel watched through the glass walls as whispers followed Christine's final walk through the office she had once ruled with such confident disdain. The news of Christine's departure rippled through Wakefield Dynamics like a stone dropped in still water. By morning, the entire company had shifted, subtly at first, then more profoundly. The air itself seemed lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from the collective shoulders of those who had worked under Christine's shadow for years. In the glass-walled conference room overlooking the city, Rachel stood before a gathered group of employees, a mix of departments, levels, and backgrounds that would have been unthinkable under the previous leadership. "Thank you all for being here," Rachel began. "Yesterday marked the beginning of a new chapter for Wakefield. Today, we write the first page together." She moved around the table, making eye contact with each person. "Some of you may be wondering what happened to Jeffrey, Danielle, and Andrew." A murmur passed through the group. The remaining members of Christine's inner circle had been noticeably absent. "Jeffrey and Andrew chose to leave," Rachel said simply. "Danielle asked for a chance to be part of the change we're creating. After a long conversation, I believe her commitment is genuine." At the back of the room, a young woman in a wheelchair, Emily Chen from the design team, raised her hand. "What exactly will that change look like?" Rachel smiled. "That's why we're here today, because transformation doesn't come from the top down, it grows from within." She pressed a button, and the screen behind her illuminated with a simple phrase, "Substance over surface." "This will be our new core value," Rachel continued. "It means we evaluate ideas based on merit, not who presents them. It means we value results over appearances." She outlined immediate changes: blind review processes for creative work, flattened hierarchy, cross-departmental teams, and a mentorship program pairing senior staff with overlooked employees. Emily spoke up again. "I applied for the creative director program 3 times under Christine. She always said my ideas were not quite the right fit for Wakefield's brand." Rachel walked over to her. "I've seen your portfolio, Emily. Your work isn't just the right fit, it's exactly what Wakefield needs to stay relevant, which is why I'd like you to lead our new digital innovation team." The young woman's eyes widened, then filled with tears. "Thank you. I won't let you down." "I know you won't," Rachel replied, "because you've been ready for years. You just needed someone to see it." Later that afternoon, Rachel stood by the window in what had been Christine's corner office, which she had already designated to become a collaborative workspace. "You've made quite an impact in just 2 days," Marcus observed, joining her. Rachel watched the city below. Change was already waiting to happen here: the talent, the ideas, the potential. It was all just beneath the surface, waiting for permission to emerge. She picked up a stack of portfolios from employees whose careers had stagnated under the previous leadership. "Tomorrow we announce Wakefield's new direction to our clients and the industry," Rachel said. Some will embrace it, others might leave. Are you worried? Marcus asked. Rachel shook her head. The clients who valued Christine's exclusivity over actual results aren't the clients who will help us build something meaningful. As the sun began to set over Manhattan, Rachel thought about Christine and her group laughing on that sidewalk. They had seen a woman in a simple white t-shirt and jeans and assumed they knew her story, her worth, her place in the world. What they couldn't see was the journey that had brought her there, the barriers she had broken, the determination that had forged her success. They couldn't see beyond the surface to the substance beneath. Sometimes, Rachel said softly, the wrong person to pick on is exactly the right person to lead the way forward. 1 month later, at a rooftop reception, Rachel watched the transformed Wakefield team interacting with clients. Emily Chen confidently presented her innovations to investors who listened with genuine interest. The company's culture had shifted from exclusivity to authenticity. Harold Wakefield raised his glass, to Rachel Wilson, who taught us that true leadership isn't about looking the part, but seeing beyond appearances to recognize value where others see only packaging. As the sun set over Manhattan, Rachel remembered that moment on the sidewalk. The irony wasn't lost on her. Christine's greatest mistake wasn't mocking a stranger, but failing to see the power that resided beneath a simple white t-shirt. Rachel's story reminds us of a truth we often forget: appearances rarely tell the whole story of who someone is or what they're capable of. In a world that rushes to judgment, we're invited to look deeper, to see beyond the surface to the substance that truly defines a person's worth. If this story resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more stories that challenge us to recognize that the person you underestimate today might be the visionary who transforms your tomorrow.